Greetings, welcome, blessings, and hoping everyone is doing well. And I'm sorry, there's something flying around, but I don't. It's not on the screen. Hang on. There's something flying around right there. It's flying around over there, but I can't see it. Now that's plumb weird, y'all. It's it's right in here on the screen, but it's not in my house. I can't see it. There's no moth. There's no moth. Hi, everybody. That's plumb weird. It's been flying around, and I saw it. I just got done doing a Facebook update. I just got my power on, and I kept seeing this thing flying around behind me, right? And I'm looking back there, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's a big old moth, right? There's nothing in my house. There is no moth that size in my house. So that's why I'm acting a little strange right now, because it's like, what the hell just happened? I saw it flying around on the screen, and it was like, but when I turn around, there's nothing in my house, at least not in this 3D world. Holy crap, what the hell? Well, if it flies back in, we'll take a look, eh? Hello, Marie, I think, yes. Hi there. Hello. I'm back after 50 hours. The storm came through the other night, and let me tell you what, I don't want to go through another one of them anytime soon. There were things that happened during that damn hurricane that was just absolutely, I guess, in so many words, it was terrifying. Don't know how else to say it. Holy crap moments, you know? I mean, watching trees, and I grew up in Florida, okay? I moved out of Florida to get away from them damn hurricanes, you know what I'm saying? And I was doing a live video to show what some of the storm was. And I thought, well, the storm's over, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to get any worse. Well, after I did the live video the other night of showing what the storm was like, oh my God, that it turned batshit crazy. Oh my gosh. Things were flying, trees were bending, the noises, the sounds that the wind was making through the trees, the entire ground shook from the force of the wind coming through here. It was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, I moved out of flipping Florida to get away from hurricanes, and then the other night it was like the eye of this hurricane, a Cat 4 hurricane, goes by 50 miles west of me. Holy crap! Now, there's a lot of trees down, lot of trees, lot of trees. I'm here to tell you, bunch of trees. Okay. And I don't know if there were any deaths here in South Georgia. I haven't. I mean, I basically, when the power came on, I got onto Facebook to let everybody know I was okay down here, just because. But we got 4 inches of rain in about 12 to 14 hours, which is not really that much. The river did come up in my backyard for the first time now in 5 years. So it's flowing sort of. If the river's up at least, And it's the highest right now it's been in, I'm telling you, in 4 years at least, which is good. I'm glad of that. But at the same time, it's like, well, it's still not flowing, but there were so many trees knocked down in the river, it has pretty much dammed up the river. So the water's up. There's water in the backyard. Not like I would like it to flood. I need a good flood here, by the way. So I'm because it's used to be a normal thing, sort of like monsoons in the jungle. But anyway, but to the point. So it's like, all right. And now there are folks down here. I mean, these small towns like Meigs and Ocklackney and even Thomasville and Moultrie and places like that. People are, I'll laugh about it on this, but they're friends of mine that I've been telling for years. Why don't you have extra toilet paper? Why don't you have extra paper towels? Well, I ran out. You should never run out. It doesn't cost that much. Quit, don't buy 1 or 2 beers and buy a 4-pack of toilet paper and an extra couple rolls of paper towels. Folks are out of toilet paper and they're fighting each other over it in the stores. And because, everything's sold out and nobody can deliver and all this other stuff. And, things are looking fairly rough. So it's like, I got toilet paper, but you're going to have to drive out here to get it if you want it, kind of thing. And it's like, but wait a minute, people don't realize back in the day, before toilet paper was toilet paper, they used the Sears and Roebuck's catalog. You went outside to the privy out back or into the barn or whatever, and I remember my great grandmother in Ohio, Grossmother, there was a 2-seater in part of the barn, and I remember as a little kid of 5 years old, trudging through the snow out to Granny's barn to use the 2-seater. And while you're sitting there, you take the Sears and Roebuck catalog and you roll up a page of it, and that's what you wipe your butt with. And it's like, yeah, this is normal. This is a cigarette, by the way. Tobacco. But so it makes me giggle to think, you're kidding me. Now, we've known for a week it was coming. Over the weekend, I was telling people, look, we don't know how bad this is going to be. Do your prepping, so I don't really have any sympathy for folks who are like, one day into this, have already run out of toilet paper. It's going to take several more days for the stocking to occur, for power to come back on. What are you going to do in the meantime? You're going to have to learn to use your hand, or you're going to have to find a catalog. What? Sure enough, can you use paper towels? I mean, I'm sorry. I just think to myself, and it's like, I have been bitching to my friends and neighbors and everybody, some of this preparation ain't that difficult. A couple of extra rolls of toilet paper, a couple of extra rolls of paper towels, which can be used for toilet paper, a couple of this, a couple of that. I mean, I tell people, if you live in the country and you have an electric stove, you're an idiot, because most of us out here in the country, we know when the lights go out, which is more frequent than not out in the country with storms and stuff happens, that, a gas stove is the way to go, and I've got extra tanks of gas here. And, so lights go out. The only thing I need to do is, instead of using a little electric sparker to turn on the gas, to light the gas, I use a lighter. Oh boy, that really is hard on me, but to the point, there were folks who are like, well, I have electric, stove, and I went out and we couldn't cook or nothing. We were eating cold cans of beans and opening them up with a knife. And I'm like, you should have a handheld mechanical can opener for these occasions. Throw it in the damn drawer. It costs $2. Okay. Well, I got to have an electric one. Okay, but what if your electric don't work? Then how are you going to open the cans? Well, I don't know. So people are sitting out there with electric can openers and don't know how to open a freaking can, and it's like, now to me it's like, but do you, where did you grow up? Who did you have for a parent? I mean, I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute now. Now, if folks didn't learn down here, at least in our area, what it's like, I'm sorry, stupid, but why don't you have a little extra? Well, we were running up. You couldn't afford 2 more rolls of toilet paper? An extra roll of paper? Come on. Well, you went out Saturday night. Y'all drank and had a good time, but you ran out of toilet paper on Wednesday and the hurricane came. Oh my God. Now what are you going to do? Wait till next week. That's what you're going to do. Whoops. Do I have sympathy for these people? I know that there are folks who run right, they only got enough money to get from paycheck to paycheck. And that's not what I'm talking about per se. But there are folks who are like, well, I don't know. I was going to buy some more and I just hadn't done it yet. Well, okay, shame on you. I got extra rolls of toilet paper upstairs in a closet that probably been there for 2, 3, 4 years because I put them there back then. Because that's my secret storm stash, if you will. You don't touch the storm stash. In the carnival, growing up, there are a lot of us that grew up in, we're living in the backs of trucks and working on the carny and ride jocks and whatever and so forth. Anyway, we all had, because we knew that we had to have money for the following week. So you had $20, but that was your start money for next week. If you didn't have that $20, you couldn't start the following week. So I was poor, but had $20 in my pocket because in 2 days I was going to have to invest that $20 so I could make money the following week. It was your lot rent kind of thing. And it's like, but if you didn't have your lot rent, you weren't going to work. You weren't going to park your trailer. And for $20, where else you're going to go? Couldn't rent a room for that, right? So it's like, okay, fine. But, for those of us who understood, we were so broke, I'd go hungry. But even though I had that $20 in my pocket, I had to have it for Monday. If this was Saturday night and I was hungry, I was just going to have to tough it out till Monday. Well, then I would get my paycheck on Monday, but I also had to have my lot fee, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you never spent that 20. It was always there until it was replenished. And so people, well, there was money there. Yeah, but you don't touch that. That is storm money. That is not, oh, well, I think I'll go rate it, Oh, it's, it was a thunderstorm today, and I'm going to get into the storm money. No. When it's storm money or it's backup or it's, your stash, it's stash and it's supposed to stay there. Okay. And there are people who don't have enough whatever, to be able to go, well, I'll use this and I'll pay it back. And then you never do. And then you can run into a storm and now everybody's out of toilet paper. And it's like, but you got to have a little bit of common sense about this. And so people are so worried about their own lives now that folks don't have TV or, there are a lot of folks got lights here just 2 hours ago that was out for a day and almost 2 days, actually. Lights went out here at about 5:00 Wednesday evening. I mean, this whole area went dark. So we lost power back then. But anyway, it came back on about 8:30 this evening. On this, I think this is Friday. I'm not sure. But to the point, though, it's like none of the local radio stations, and several of them have power, were given any kind of updates as to what was going on in Georgia. It sucked. It was like I turned the radio off. Nobody wanted to talk about the storm. Everybody was on the 1250 or they wanted to talk about this and that. Nobody talked about the storm damage down here. There were no local live reporters on the radio going, Highway 111 is now cleared, but there's power down, and be careful if you go up McCucken Road and turn left on Colby Road. There are trees down and you can't get across the bridge. I mean, it's like there was nothing out there telling folks, hey, be careful in your neighborhood. We just had to drive around and find out for ourselves. And in the old days, I remember, because I used to work at some of these radio stations, you were there. And I mean, if there was a storm, I'd stay on the air if they needed it. And, and people would call in, there's a tree down at such and such, okie dokie. And you'd say, all right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go down Lower Meigs Road at such and such because there's a tree all the way across the highway there. Be careful, there's power lines. None of that. No local radio station was covering it. Had to listen to NPR National to find out what was happening on a local level. I was like, this is stupid. But anyway, that's a personal gripe of mine. But to the other side of the coin, there are a lot of people who are like, oh, well, it's just going to rain. Well, no, your lights are going to go out for 2 days. Bet on it. I told people as the lights were going out, I was telling people, hunker down. I went onto Facebook. I said, if you live in South Georgia, North Florida, hunker down, draw your water now, get your stuff. If you ain't got it, get it now. And some of those same people are complaining, well, you're not going to take a Cat 4 storm that's headed right for us. Seriously? You're not going to take it serious? Oh, okay. I think they know now. I think those folks who were disbelievers before have become believers now, because even a friend of mine, as we were talking, she was like, hey, man, I learned last time I got an electric stove, and she rents the house, so it's not her stove. But to the point, she was like, I went out and got me a little, propane cook thing so I could make coffee or heat up something or fry some eggs. Yep, there you go. So, I mean, last hurricane, people picked it up. But some folks are still just oblivious to this. And we never know, seriously, from one day to the next, what's going to happen to us. I mean, crap happens, right? But we saw this one coming. So I'm sorry. I feel sorry for folks who don't have enough toilet paper or certain provisions. But I've been warning you for a long time. You never know when these kinds of things are going to be important. Tobacco. See, I couldn't get to the store to get cigarettes. The storm got too bad before I could get into town. So I buy papers once a month. I buy tobacco that I keep in this old humidor that's like 40. This thing's really about 40 years old. I keep pipe tobacco in it. So if I need a cigarette and I can't get to the store or whatever, I can roll my own, which is what I'm doing. And a friend of mine came by yesterday and gave me 3, stateside cigarettes. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, have you got enough? He's like, yeah, I got a carton at the house, don't worry. So he gave me 3 cigarettes and I was like, in hog heaven, I almost smoked them all back to back. It was shame on me. I was like, oh, but anyway, it was, I just wanted a store-bought cigarette so bad. And he had 3 of them. And I smoked the first one. I was like, son of a bitch, that was good. But anyway, a little bit of humor from my end, but to the point though, I have got lots to say, and I will say this one particular thing. I said it on the Facebook video, but I'll say it on here on this one. I've been through at least 12 hurricanes in my lifetime, in my 66 years. First one was in 1962 or 3, not sure. Hurricane Donna hit Tampa. I've spoke about it before. I'm not going to go into that, but to the point, then in the mid 80s, about 85-ish, Hurricane Kate came through. Maybe it was 86, but to the point. And it came through about this time of year. Knocked Thomasville, Tallahassee, knocked the socks off of us. It wasn't near this storm. This one, there were times when I was like, I was not necessarily worried for myself because I've got 4 tons of concrete in here I can hide in my hot tub bathroom thingy, and but I was worried for other folks because it was so strong, and I've never seen trees bend the way these have. And the thing that happened this time in this storm, I have never witnessed, heard, or seen before. And it was this: my house sits on the ground, concrete floor, on the dirt, in the dirt, made with Mother Earth, by the way. And so I'm sitting here in this chair, looking out the window, listening to the storm, going to the door every once in a while, but there are tree limbs being thrown around the yard, and I don't want to get impaled with something, right? So I'm staying by the windows, looking out, watching the storm, and I feel this rumbling in the ground. Can feel it in my feet, and it's a low kind of noise, almost a machine-like noise, but not. And the rumbling gets louder. The vibration in the floor coming from the earth is getting more intense. I can feel it on my feet, not just a sensory kind of thing. And it's like, well, that's interesting. Um, and I noticed that it would get louder, and then a great big gush of wind would hit towards the house. After the gush went by, the gusty wind, that noise would subside. Well, I was standing outside just checking where this I was trying to figure out where this noise was coming from, because it sounded like a truck on the highway or something. I mean, it was like, really rumbling. And so I'm like, okay, I'm trying to pinpoint the noise, and I hear this loud cracking noise. And across about 100 yards away is my neighbor's property, our property line, a loud cracking, and I heard the thump and then felt it in my feet. This huge pine tree hit the dirt. Now, I thought it was on my property, but when I noticed today and I walked over there and looked, it's on the other guy's property, even further away from the property line. But I felt it in my feet. And after that happened, I realized what was going on. As the wind came over the hill through the pine trees, it was striking the pines in such a way, it was setting up a resonance in the earth. These pine trees were taking such a beating, the vibration was being transmitted into the earth, because after the gust of wind would go by, the noise would stop. And then I couldn't hear the wind, but I could feel the vibration and hear this rumble tone. And then I could hear the wind far off, and then the rumbling got louder. And so this was so intense that the pine trees were emitting vibrations into the planet. It was ungodly. As I drove around yesterday to check on a friend of mine, make sure things were okay, and let her know I was okay, I went by a field. On one side, this corn had been planted about the 1st of September, more or less, and maybe the end of August. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Hang on a second. It was fall corn. A lot of farmers, plant early corn, and if they can, they'll plant fall corn. Well, they did. On my right hand side, there was a field, at least 15 to 20 acres. On the left hand side, more uphill, was a field that it could have been 50, 60, maybe even 100 acres of corn. Every single piece of corn was flattened. Not one stalk of corn was standing. Everything had been pushed over. It looked like a giant crop circle, everything laid down in one direction. Well, on one side of the road, all the corn was laid down going up the hill. But on the other side of the road, where the top of the hill was, the corn was laid down in one direction, but as it reached the top of the hill, the corn was laid down in a totally different direction. But both sides of the road, this corn, I tried to take a picture of it, but it was almost dark, and I couldn't. It just, you couldn't tell what it was in the picture. But I'm here to tell you, I've seen corn bent over, but this was flattened. I mean, it was like somebody just took cardboard and went over it and laid it down. It didn't look broken, but I mean, huge fields of corn literally flattened. Unbelievable. I mean, downhill, uphill. The cotton crop around here, a lot of it is ruined. I mean, the cotton had been defoliated and they were just getting ready. Some of this has already been picked and already rolled up for the to go to the gins. They'll have to dry it out and it'll be a little harder, but the cotton was picked before the storm. But now this cotton after the storm, and I mean, there are a bunch of fields of cotton around me. The cotton is literally dripping. It has been beaten off of the cotton, out of the cotton bowl that makes this big round bunch of cotton. Instead of it being in the bowls, it looks like it all through the fields. It looks drippy. It was beaten down so hard with the rain that it literally they won't be able to recover any cotton out of those fields. I sincerely don't think that anybody's going to get anything out of some of these cotton fields. I really don't. So I would say there's at least 50% of the cotton still in the field. So that means of all the money and all the jobs and everything down here, 50% of that is now destroyed. That means 50% of that cotton won't be ginned. So that's only half of the cotton that maybe was made last year. So the people who work the gins are only going to work half as long this year. I mean, the economic problem with what has happened to the cotton down here. I thought they would had already picked more, but when I drove around yesterday, I noticed I don't know if half of the cotton has been picked. So Colquitt County, which has a large amount of cotton, I mean, they got several gins that work 24/7, 3-4 months in a row to gin all the cotton that they pick. But now, I would guess that I would say that less than half of it's been picked. That's just my rough estimate. Now, I'm sure there are other farms and other places that they got their cotton out of the field sooner. We'll hope so. But for that, that's going to be an economic disaster down here because all the people who depend on that in the fall and into winter, that's their Christmas money, and that's how they get through the winter. If they've worked on a farm and things are, they're wintering over, they go and work at the gin for a couple of months. They earn extra money. It gets them through the winter. It's not going to be there. So, and they won't get anything out of it because they're not covered by the insurance, if you follow me. The farmers, they can, do crop insurance and they're covered. But the folks who work the gin, if they don't get the material to gin, then they just lost all that business. And then the people who would have worked those extra hours to gin that extra cotton, all them folks are out of business. And I noticed that there are several of the peanut fields. There's a lot of peanuts grown down here as well. Now the peanuts fared a lot better because they're like this high off the ground. They're really low to the ground. So if there's any damage, it will be that there was too much water in a field. And if they don't get the peanuts out soon enough, they have to wait for the field to dry to get their equipment in. The peanuts could basically get moldy in the ground before they can get them up and dried. So we'll see about that. But the peanut crop was affected. I just can't tell you how much. And that's big business down here. I mean, big time, big business. Okay. Now, the next other thing, there are probably, and I'm not lying with this, there are probably 1 million chickens within a 60-mile radius of Moultrie because there is one gigantic chicken processing plant in the city of Moultrie. Well, several of these chicken houses lost their roofs. Now, they're built very well. I built them in the past when I was a carpenter, helped build hog parlors, all this kind of stuff. And, down here, that's big business. Now, they put these things together right. They know about storms. So it's not like that this was shoddy workmanship. They spend good money to have these facilities built and maintained. But when you lose, when there might be 3,000 chickens in one chicken house and the roof gets blown off, then the potential of losing all that stock, feed, etc., and you got to put a roof back on it, so forth. So there are folks around here that agriculturally have got beat up pretty bad. So, and that's just in Colquitt County. I don't know about the neighboring counties. I haven't had enough news on, and I seriously don't think, because there's still so many power lines down and everything everywhere, that people don't really know what the damage is down here yet. But it is very extensive concerning agricultural. It's less extensive versus people and houses and barns. Um, but destruction is destruction, you know. And I'm sure that, like, for my refrigerator being off for 2 days, there's stuff in the refrigerator is just going to have to get tossed out. So I lost money in the fact that what was in my refrigerator and my freezer is now pretty much gone or no good. So I've lost 30, 40, $50 worth of food, probably easy, with what I had stashed in the freezer, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But to the point, though, it's like, at least I had an extra loaf of bread. Folks can't buy a loaf of bread right now. Well, thank goodness I had one in the freezer, and it was just thawing out today. So now at least I have one more loaf of bread to get me by, et cetera. But anyway, I'm always prepared. I've just realized that I've been in the country too long, that shit happens, and that you got to be prepared for these things. And having I was expecting one more day of this, quite frankly. But this afternoon, by about 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern time, they I had a power line down across my driveway. I had trees down across my driveway. I couldn't even get up the driveway. I had a friend of mine come down my driveway and cut a tree up so I could get out of my driveway. God bless him. He came by to check on me. But so that, those are the neighbors down here in South Georgia. Yeah, I mean, there were people riding around who didn't work for the state department or the county or the EMC, who had a chainsaw and were clearing the roads because we just live around here. And if I'd had a chainsaw with gas, I'd have been out there cutting up a couple of trees to help folks too. But anyway, that's just how it is around here. We're all kind of a self-sustaining. So when stuff happens like this, I mean, there was a guy that he works for the state department, of the road department. And he come home last night at just about dark and got out a chainsaw and was cutting up the tree off of the power line. So when the EMC got here today, earlier this morning, the tree was already cut and all they had to do was put the wire up. So, I mean, I tried to do the same thing. I cleared what debris I could in certain areas when I went off driving yesterday. So, but anyway, so a lot of people got lost their freezers and lost their refrigerators and lost that economics. They lost being out of work or whatever they needed. So that, when folks are living from hand to mouth on a week to week basis, it's like, well, that doesn't help. The fact that the stores are empty now of most goods, and it's going to be days or maybe even weeks before some of this stuff is restocked, simply because of how the storm came through and what happened, et cetera. And so, I'm as safe as I can be down here. And now that I got the power back on, I'm hunky dory. I can take a hot shower now. I was already working out a hot shower if I had to go through tonight. I was like, man, I'm going to have to get out my camp shower. I was like, well, that's okay. I got plenty of gas and I got water. I dug my own well. It's about 21 feet deep. So I can throw a bucket down in there and get water out when I want it. That's because I planned it that way. I wanted to be able, when the power went out, okay, I got my camping gear and I can camp in the house and I've got my candles and so forth. But, so I'm basically camping all the time in a way. But anyway, so I made it through the storm. I swear there was stuff in my yard. My friend, his name is Eddie Murphy. He's white and not funny, but well, we've known each other for well over 20 years, longer than that, I'm sure. But he came by. He was in the neighborhood, seeing what was going on, and he stopped by and he goes, Dave, he says, you and me, we've got junk in our yard. We've got wood piles from things we've torn down and we're working on things. And, he goes, I want to tell you, He said, if people were to drive in my yard right now, they'd go, "Oh, the hurricane sure did mess up your yard." But he looked out the window. He had gotten in his car and he looked at me and he goes, "But you know what? Your yard, like my yard, it looks about the same. There are things in my yard that should have been tossed around by the storm, but aren't. And there were things that, was like, what's this doing in my yard kind of thing? Where did it come from? A neighbor 2 miles down the road, there's a piece of debris in your yard. It's like, and he goes, I can't tell the difference. It looks like the storm actually cleaned my yard up. And he goes, but you'll understand. And I do. And I've got piles of wood over here that, I'm trying to, frame my shed in and everything. And now the cool weather's here. I plan to go back to work on that. But to the point, I was like, yeah, there was some tin that I had in the back over here that wasn't nailed down. It was laying on top of the shed to get out of my way. And so I could frame the back of the shed in. And those sheets of tin should have literally been thrown around the yard and hit, but they never left the roof. They clattered up and down, but they never left the roof. And I was like, and we had strong winds here. I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you. I went out in the yard to check on something, and I heard a crash and went to look, and the wind came from behind the house. It was blowing at me from that direction, the windows. And I went outside and it was like, wow, this is weird. And then it stopped and there was like a suction, and the wind came in along the edge of the house here and shoved me out into the rain. Literally almost picked me up and threw me out in the yard. And I was like, that's never happened. Not that way. I've been out in the wind and, felt a gush, but to be leaning towards something and then have the wind come behind me and shove me out in the rain out the storm, I was like, that is plumb wicked weird. I'm here to tell you. So South Georgia, it literally looks like there was, there near where I live, there are Christmas tree farms, and they have this equipment, and they're cutters, and they go around the tree and shape the trees, and they go down the road, and it trims the trees before Christmas time so they all look nice and neat and all that kind of stuff. Well, when they get done, there's all these pieces of pine tree around. Well, it looks like there was a giant cutter that went through Georgia. Now, I can't vouch for other places, but the trees were shredded. There are pieces of limb like this long everywhere. Oak tree, you name it, pick a tree. There are limbs all over the place, leaves all over the place. It looks like, the good Lord came over with a hedge trimmer and like shaved off the tops of everything. It's all over the place. The good news is that, like I say, there are trees down all over, but the trees I saw on houses did not look life-threatening in any way. A couple of cars and trucks destroyed, bye-bye to them. And the houses were not destroyed, but were going to need, they were going to need fixing, but not like I've seen in the past. So, yes, there was damage. The little town of Meigs, that town just got beat up. It's an old town, 200 years or more. It dates back to the early 1800s, and before the Civil War. And so there are houses that are literally still that old, and they fared pretty well. But there are old oak trees overhanging the roads, and it's old South Georgia, old Southern, Spanish moss hanging from the trees, blah blah blah. But to the point though, some of those oak trees just literally just shattered, just limbs gone everywhere and all over the place. Power lines down all over Meigs. It's probably going to take them another day to get the power back on in that small town. And that's just in that little town. Now, out here in the country where the wires are, in those small towns, there's wires on every block and running everywhere. So when a tree falls, it doesn't just take one line down, it takes a dozen lines, and all of them are got to be put back up. So Them folks over there in these small towns, they got beat up bad. I mean, there's not even street. When I left Meg's last night, there wasn't any street lamps. I didn't see any lights on anywhere in that small town. Not at the police station, not anywhere, not the first light. There were candles lit in windows, and things, but there wasn't any electricity on. Few people with generators. I mean, two of my neighbors had generators. I mean, oh my God, those things are loud, by the way. But anyway, it was like, share your juice, but it's okay. I got by. But and the folks that I've checked with, they've heard from their friends and neighbors, and there are friends of mine who live closer to the Alabama border near Cuthbert, Georgia, and they got hammered too. They were on the other side of the eye wall from where we were. They came over here to stay to get away from the storm and got hit just as bad. And when they got home and checked out, that Cuthbert and over where they're from, which was on the other side of the eye wall, they got beat up too, just as bad. So I can't give you any, statistics other than the fact that in my it's 10 miles north to my friend's house, and then so round trip it's 20 miles. And I had to go two different ways, because one way I kind of drove down in the ditch, and I didn't want to go back that way. And the other thing was I wanted to see how the other damage was coming back to the house last night. So I did about a 20 round trip little thing in my area, looking at the fields and everything like that. And we fared better than we should have, quite frankly. I mean, a testament to the new building codes that they implied back many years ago when I was a contractor, and those houses and things are still standing. There was very little roof damage. I noticed one 2-story house that was up on a hill. There are 2 dormer windows up on the second floor. Both of the windows had been blown out, it looked like, and they had a tarp or something over them. A little bit of roof damage, but that seemed to be the only thing wrong. A few trees leaning up against houses, and you could tell where the eave was, that it was broken from the weight of the tree. But there weren't any, the ones that I saw, and I counted 10 houses with trees on them. None of them had pierced the roof that I could see, but all of them were leaning on the house for sure. So, and I'm talking huge oak trees, them southern oak trees that it takes 2 or 3 people to put their arms around, big oak trees. So there's going to be a lot of chainsaw work, going to be a lot of firewood available for folks for this winter. And to top it off, after the storm went by, the temperature started to drop. And so last night it got to 60 degrees here at about 4 o'clock in the morning. It's supposed to be a little chillier, I think. But anyway, so I just wanted to get on here and give a personal bird's eye view of what I saw. I tried to take pictures, but my camera, its battery wasn't fully charged, and I tried to take some pictures and this, that, and then it started getting dark, and I was like, crap. But tomorrow I'm going to go take a little journey around and take some more pictures. I'm going to try to do some video. Now that the power is back on, I can charge up my batteries. But anyway, I know there were folks who were worried about me, and I thank you all for your prayers, and for all the other folks who, this was a mess. I'm here to tell you, it could have been worse. But now we were on the east side of the eye wall from where I live, and we were getting a lot of it out of the southeast until the storm got further north of us, when the eye wall went north, and then we got hammered from the west. Oh my God. But in all the hurricanes that I've been through, this is one I would rather not repeat. Just the wind, the way it howled, watching the trees being bent, and the fact that these pine trees, more of them didn't break, is a testament to the pine trees themselves. No wonder they were used for masts on sailing ships back in the day. That's what Georgia was about. The state of Georgia, the big pines and the long leaf yellow pine. Oh my God, they started a penal colony here, and that's why Georgia was famous, because of the huge pine trees, and because of how sturdy and how dense the wood, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how Georgia became a state. One of the 13 original. But to the point, anyway. Just want to let you all know. I'm going to read your comments here. Where's my glasses at? I'm going to go fix something to eat. I just been eating light here the last couple of days. And iStation Z, how are you? Rick and Delaney, Breaking Dawn. Hey, Deborah. Yeah, I sent you a Hangouts thingy, Breaking Dawn. So, anyway, hi, everybody. "5 years, we will be 90% solar and water powered in the United States." It's going to take longer than that, Rick and Delaney. Because of what I know in manufacturing and everything, it will take 5 years just to set it up. Then they have to work it in. It takes a while to get things in process. It's going to take longer than 5 years. I wish it would sooner, but there's too much infrastructure, too many things that need to be done, and there's not enough people to get it all done. It's going to take longer than 5 years. Now, do I see it coming? Oh, yeah. Yeah, never be too complacent. Absolutely. There are people who get, oh, well, it's just a storm. No. Well, I think there are people that I talked to this time around and went, wow, that last time the storm came through, but see, they're 25 or younger, and they haven't seen a real hurricane come through here. They've lived up here, bad storms, a tornado here and there, but not a Cat 4 go through your backyard. So it's like, this is different. But to the point now, there are a lot of people that are going, you know what? Us older folk who are like, I got an extra roll of toilet paper, but you're going to have to come get it from me. It's like, the folks are fighting over toilet paper. Yeah, yep. And bread, of course. Now, bread you eat, but, anyway. Our lightning is recharged by 3 panels on the inside of the south windows for hail damage protection. Yeah, I got my solar stuff out and batteries charged. In fact, I used a fan with a 3-volt. That's a 3-volt fan, camp fan kind of thing, and hooked up a 6-volt battery to it and ran the fan for several hours until it went down. Then I switched out the batteries. And they would actually kind of recharge themselves back up. And then yesterday I got out the my solar collector. It's only a 2 watt. So it's a really small trickle charger for a battery, fishing, camping, blah, blah, blah. Got it set up and everything. And so I had plenty of DC power. And so I burned out one of my DC fans because I put it to 12 volt without a thing, and I burnt the thing out. But anyway, I learned a lesson and didn't have anything else to do, and it was only like $7. So, but to the point though, I'm going to get a couple more of the small fans. I've got a 12-volt fan, but it was harder to make it run. The 3-volt fans work really well. And to the point, if you're still listening, if you get one of those any kind of battery-powered fan, I found out this by accident, but I think it's worthwhile information. Don't run it on low. And here's the reason. Low, in order to get the low voltage to slow the motor down, it runs through a resistor, which actually heats up, because that's how they step the voltage down to make the fan run slower. But I was doing readings with my voltmeter and everything. So every 10 minutes I'd check it. Every 10 minutes I'd check it to see how much battery power I was losing. I lost more battery power with the thing running on low, thinking I was going to save electricity out of my battery. It didn't work because it still draws the same amount of electricity to the device, but then it turns some of that DC power into heat to lower the voltage for the fan. You're better off running the fan on the high speed because it will actually lose less electricity, DC power, than if you put it on low. I was like, well, this is dumb. Why make a 2-speed fan? And if it's, if you're running off of 2 D-cell batteries, which is what the fan was designed to do, I hooked it up differently and wired it straight so I could hook it up to another battery source. But the thing is that running it on low just heated up the resistor. And in one case, in the other one, I blew it up because it overheated. I was, pushing about 9 volts, and it was, it's a 3-volt, and it'll run off of 6 because 6 doesn't stay there long. It drops into the 5 range really fast when you're running one of these fans. But to the point, though, it runs for several hours off of a 6-volt battery, and I got a way to trickle charge these. So it's like, that was my biggest beef. It was hot in the house. It was still too muggy. Everything else was covered, and I kept the refrigerator closed, and things were still cool in there this afternoon. I drank a root beer that was, a little on the warm side, but drinkable. And so it's like, so for 2 days with no power, things made it through. But for me personally, I had to have a fan. But once I figured out that little bit of mess, I got 7 6-volt batteries sitting out, and I was doing different ones. I got some of them. This is not a plug, but some of them are the rechargeable Rayovac. And so I'm going to put everything back on charge and top everything back up. Not that I'm expecting a storm, but better to have them full up. But the thing is, so after 2 days, I figured out how to use that fan, now I can wire it up to a 12-volt. Here's something else too, by the way. You got a 3-volt fan. It'll run on 6 volts, but maybe not 9. Now, this is an old Verizon. Plug it into your truck into your truck to charge a cell phone. Now, all I did was pop it open. Now, these 2 leads coming out, red and black, hot and negative. And this is the positive side here. So I attached a wire to a 12-volt battery and took a reading out the back with 7 volts. So whatever this charged, it was a 6-volt battery probably, because most of the time, in order to charge something, you have to be about a volt above it. And then there's supposed to be a little chip in the inside that once it reaches 6 volts, that it shuts it off so it doesn't burn the battery up. Well, these don't work as good. Now, what I'm bringing up to about this is that I can pop it open and all, but I got a 12-volt battery sitting right outside, and I lift the window up, pass the wire through, and connect it to this. So 12-volt comes to this end of it. Out this end, I plug it up to my 3-volt fan. It's 7 volts, not enough to burn out this particular fan. So now I can run I got a big ass, battery outside that my trolling motor. And so now I can run that little 3-volt motor all night long off of that thing. So I got everything covered with 12 volts or less. So if you do some planning, there are things that are out there available now that people can use. So, and it's like, don't throw these little gems away. If you get a new cell phone, don't throw these little puppies away, because if you get in a jam, you can convert your 12-volt into something that you can use, whether it be a fan or some LED lights or something, and this drops the voltage down. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just go through somebody's garbage. Even at the store, these things are like less than $10. So if you bought the components and tried to make one of them, it'd cost you more than that. So, if you use your brain, and there's things that are out there already. Now, I've got a drawer with a couple more of these in it, but each one of them has a different output voltage. They're all 12 volt in, but they all have a different output. So it's like fine. So this one, it has about a 7-volt output. That's a little high for that motor over there, but it'll handle it. So, but the thing is that there are other things in the house that I could run. I've got a it's a pump for circulating water in a live well. And the thing is that I've got several drums and things around here with water in it. So it's like with 6 volts I can make the pump work. 12 volts it works better. But so it's a bilge pump for a boat. Now it's not the smallest, it's the next size up from small, but it'll pump like 20 gallons a minute or something like that. So if you need water, all I need is my little pump. And like I said, it'll run on one battery. And if I want to pump water, it doesn't go real high, like 6 or 7 feet is about as high as it's going to pump. But that's not the point. So for, I don't know, those little pumps are maybe $20 at Walmart. But the thing is, they don't ever wear out hardly. You got to like run them to death. And, they'll run on 6 volts. They're best at 12. But so it's like, so you have a couple of these batteries hanging around and a couple of little tinker toy kinds of things. And when a storm comes, you can have a fan, you can have water to pump if you need to pump water around a little bit, and without going to a big expense, you can cover your basic needs. So I'm just here to tell you, made it through, did it, again, this is what I learned. I'm going to do a little report on, which did the best, a candle like this or a candle like this. And just to say that these are like emergency candles. All right, it's just stuck in here, blah, 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 and they're about yay tall. So I measured them off and I lit 2 candles at the same time, a brand new one of these. And I've got one of these little ones burning over here that I lit about 2 hours ago. Actually, I lit this and the lights came on. It was really weird. So I decided just to let it burn and thank the spirits for the thing. But it was my first evening candle. But I noticed that there's like 3, 6, there's 12 in a pack for $1. Okay. Each one of these will burn at least an hour and a half. I was getting almost 2 hours all the way burning down in those things. This, it was burning a half an inch at least per hour, actually about 45 minutes. So for every half inch, it was burning down. But as it burned down, there was wasted wax that fell off, come down, blah, blah, blah. These don't waste any wax. It stays inside the aluminum. And depending on where you're at and what you're doing, when I go camping, sometimes these little aluminum things can come in handy for all kinds of stuff. I mean, I turned a couple of these into a knife one time because it's got a sharp edge, and all you got to do is it can have a sharp edge. It's aluminum, easy to bend, blah, 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 cut it with a knife. And these, you never know. They work as ashtrays. You never know what you can use them when you're stuck somewhere. But to the point, though, if I buy emergency candles anymore, this gives light high up in a bigger light and had a bigger flame. But it burned faster than these little puppies. And these didn't leave a mess on the, flowing down the side of the candle or whatever. They didn't blow out as easy. And so on my money, these lasted better than these did. I could go to sleep with one of these burning in the candle holder and not worried about it falling over and burning the house down. Whereas this one, wax was melting, and I was like, didn't want to go to sleep with an open flame with this type of candle. So just saying. But the little round ones actually lasted longer. I thought these were going to win out. Nope. The little ones, by far, over the last 2 days, I mean, that was a package of 12, and I got 6 left. Now, I did use 1, maybe 2 out of another package because it was a different material. But to the point, though, it's like the round ones still burn longer, better than these. Just saying, that's a 10-cent worth there. I might just do a quick video just on the candle thing. But to the point, it's like, well, but I have different kinds of candles. I've got tapered candles. I've got a different style, those little round ones. But the whole deal is for $4 or $5. I've got enough of those little candles. I was prepared to use 4 of them tonight. One of them's actually burning now, and I would have had 2 left over for tomorrow had this stretched on for another day. So just saying, one of those packages gave me all the light that I needed. Oh, and one other little cutesy schmootsy thing that I just thought I'd throw out there. These things here, they look like an ink pen. Now this one's a blue one, and takes a couple of them little round batteries. And they were in Walmart or whatever, and I think they were $1. Maybe they were $2. I'm not sure. But anyway, when I go camping, sometimes, you go for a walk or something, and you just want to mark the trail. Well, I used to use those, the shaky things all the time, and they're okay in emergencies and stuff. But there have been times where I'm out on the trail and I see where people have thrown them down. They don't pick them up, and it's like, but anyway, these have that same kind of glowish kind of thing. But I was looking at this and I was like, I needed a nightlight. I'm old. I got to go to the toilet, and there's usually some kind of light in the house, whether it's from whatever, so I can make it to the bathroom without stubbing my toe, right? So I was like, it was so pitch dark here in the house. I was like, oh, holy crapamundo. So I've got there's like 5 of these, but a blue one, a red one, a green one, a yellow one, orange one, blah, blah, blah. I turned it on and just put it over here beside my bed, just enough so that when I woke up in the early morning and had to go, I had this little night light so I could see to turn on the flashlight so I didn't bump into something. The one that I used last night stayed on for 2 nights in a row, and the battery still works. So for a night light, for $1, there's 2 batteries, and the first one is regular. You can set it up to where it'll flash, and it's like, okay, little button on the side there for $1. But as a nightlight, and it lasted 2 nights without the batteries going down. Now this morning it was really weak, but it had burned, at least 12 hours continuously. And in fact, when I woke up, I forgot to turn it off this first thing. So it probably burned at least 24 hours without going dim. Without going out. It went dim, but not out. So for, pure black, blah, this is a great nightlight. And like I say, different colors. So, I used the orange one because it had its batteries were the lowest. I wanted to run them down, see how long it'd stay awake and all that kind of thing. But this one's got fresh batteries in it, and the light's really bright. This thing could last 3 nights if I needed a nightlight, under quote normal conditions. So it's like, okay, it's $1. So you can have things to help you out in emergency situations that don't cost an arm and a leg. Okay, these are the things I used until they turned the power on. Now it's been 2 hours. Almost exactly since the power came on. So, but anyway, I'm hungry. I want some more coffee. I just wanted to say hi to everybody, and that I sent prayers out to everybody. I've got 2 buckets of wax, which I keep after I've used the candle, and some wick so I can melt and recycle the wax. Marie, you're like me. And now that the winter's coming on here in the South, I got a wood heater, and I got an old pot. And guess what stays in that old pot on the wood heater when I got it cranked up? I got old jars, and I found the right kind of string to make wicks with. And I've got probably 6, 7, 8 pounds of old wax from different places that I've collected. And as they burn down or whatever, then I take that wax and I reuse them. These were just some that I had bought. But I bought them to do the test to see which one lasted longer. And when I'm in a tent or go camping, or I'm in my, these things with the aluminum base really come in handy. So when I'm in the house and I'm awake and or outside or something, then I'll light one of the other kind of candles. But to your point, Marie, absolutely. I use my wood stove, and I'll put the pot on the stove just right. It'll melt the wax, and I'll be making candles while I'm heating up the house. So yeah. Yep. Hey, tinfoil, how are you? Blessings to all of you. I got a pressure liner I pick up from a throwout. I don't know if it works. I need a new wick for it too. Yep. And a kerosene lamp. Kerosene's a little expensive now. It's like $7 or $8 a freaking gallon. But a gallon of kerosene and the right kind of lamp. And never, if you turn your lamp up and you see black smoke coming out the top and it starts changing the globe, you got it up too high. Turn it down. I've used kerosene lanterns over the years, and with one of them, just red or blue, depending, regular old style lanterns. If you keep the wick down, which will give you plenty of light. Now my house has got cathedral ceilings, so I could use it in this house. But most folks have got 8-foot ceiling. I don't really recommend a kerosene lantern unless you keep it low. But if you're in a storm situation and you don't have anything, open up a window, make sure there's enough ventilation. But one of those tanks of kerosene in a lantern can last you several days. I've been down on the river and they literally burned all night long and into the morning before I woke up. And I'd go blow it out or whatever, and then light it that same evening. And I'd be down on the river with one lantern and just, that one tank. And it lasts me through several days and plenty of light. So sometimes the old ways aren't that bad, but these things like these little battery operated things, okay, they're made out of plastic. I hate it, but it'll float up to a point. So when I go fishing or whatever, I can lay these in the bottom of my kayak or my canoe, and I can see the inside of my vessel without it blinding me, looking off the sides for where I need to be going. So, but anyway, I'm not trying to sell stuff, but these are a really good choice. Next other thing, in the same department at Walmart are these little jobbies. Okay, they've got a couple of little round batteries in them. It's an LED, and it's just a push light, one on, one off. But the thing is that I read for 2 nights with this. Used it as my, because it's light and it's small and I could adjust it, and it just sits on my head. So okie dokie. So I laid over there on my little cot over there and read a new book that I started. I'm over 100 pages in already. But to the point though, this was $1 at Walmart. And it's like, well, what good is it? It's really good for emergency situations. I got a couple of these literally hanging around the house. So I can bump into them at night. I can have a quick light and see where I'm going if the lights go out. So for a couple of bucks. And the thing with me is every time I'd go into Walmart once a month, I'd buy one of these and I'd buy one of these. And there's another kind that have the clip onto your cap on a ball cap. Those are $1. I'd get one of each. So after each month, I get a blue and I get a red one. Now I got one of every color, and I got a couple of these stashed in the drawer over there. Haven't bought any from Walmart recently, but that's not the point. I have enough now. The next other thing is these little round lights. These things have got 3 AAA batteries in them. They're usually $1 at Walmart. You couldn't buy the LEDs in them for the $1, or the case, or the switch, or the 3 batteries, by the way. So it's a good deal, even if you never used the light, but you needed the batteries. So to the point, this gets you around outside. The little, this one is a great night light. And this other one, this works great when you just want to read in the house and, whatever. Now, it doesn't work so good outside. It's too broad. So I usually use something that's lower to the ground. I've got different headlamps, but I'd rather keep, a lot of times if I'm in the woods or outside, I want to keep the light out of my eyes and down low. And also you can hide your light better and folks won't see you coming. But anyway, so this is $1, this is $1, and so is this one, $3. these could be lifesavers. And I could still read with this tonight. There's still plenty of battery left. So to the point. And this one, ain't even close to being dead. So $1 worth of candles that I still have another day and a half's worth. $3 worth of flashlights. I made it through. That was all the light that was necessary that I needed for the last 2 days. Just saying. Now I've got other flashlights, but these 3 items were what I used most. And the candles, So you don't need much. You just need to use your noggin and make sure that you don't run them out all the time. For $2 you get 2 of them. $5 you get one of these, 2 of that. You get what I'm saying. And it's not about Walmart, but it is about having an extra, by golly, because you never know. Hey, Milky Way, absolutely. I took a break from the madness. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Tractor Supply is a 10-pack of those at holiday times. Absolutely. Yep. All right. So I'm going to go get something to eat and do some things now that the lights are on. And I just want to make sure everybody know that, I'm safe down here in South Georgia. And we went through a bad storm, you can betcha, but most of us are safe, and there's stuff that's going on. But I think all in all, it could have been much worse. And I didn't want it to, but oh boy. So anyway, much love to all of you. And if Deborah, if you're still on, if you want to do a hangout in a little bit, let me know. So much love to y'all. I'll catch up with you in a day or so. Let me get things squared back around here at the house and everything. And just off the top, whatever was floating around in the back behind me earlier ain't there now, but there was no moth in my house, by the way. I'm going to have to rewatch the beginning of this video and go to my Facebook because it was floating around back there too. As I thought about it earlier before I started the conversation, it almost looked like one of the fairy folk. So we'll see. So much love. I lived a short time off grid camping. Night, everybody. I may be back on later. We'll see, but at the moment, gonna break until tomorrow. So love to you all, and be kind to one another. Yep, when things happen like this, I was helping folks, and people help me out, and checking on each other. That's what folks do in things like this. So love y'all, and be safe. Okay. So